Recording. Welcome, friends. It is week 4, lecture 2. That means that you have officially done it. This is the last lecture of the stack. This is the last lecture of your first stack. So way to go. You did it. You should be very, 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 very proud of yourself because this in itself is a difficult task. This is a difficult thing to do, and you guys have done it. You have accomplished it. So just want to say way to go from the beginning. Way to go. Really, really proud. You guys have worked very, very hard. So way to go. You did it. What I typically like to do, the song takes forever. So I'm only going to do it for a hot second. Although I know that you guys would really, really, really enjoy watching the entire thing. I don't know if you guys know this Vitamin C, the graduation song. If you are any sort of millennial, then you didn't realize how bad style is, but it's coming back, right? The hair, I wish would come back. It's a pretty cool hair. Like every graduation song. Really learn. Here we go. Okay, that's all I'll make you guys endure, but way to go. You did it. The song is a bop. But everybody has a graduation song. I do want to take this time just to say thank you. As your instructor, this has been really one of my favorite classes because you guys have put in a lot of really hard work. I know that at the beginning, there was a lot of fear and a lot of sort of, this is going to be really difficult, and it is hard. But you guys worked really, really hard. So thank you for your hard work. Just a couple things before we get going is want to make sure that you are reminded that you do have a core assignment due tomorrow. This is part 4 of your project. So if you have done just a couple things, actually, we'll get to that in a second, but it is due tomorrow at 9 a.m. That is the cutoff. There's nothing I can do. 9 a.m. is when we have to cut it off. But just as a reminder, if I do say maybe a resubmission, what I'll say is just a resubmit and then give you some suggestions. And then Josh will check that in your next stack. So if you do have to do some sort of resubmission, please know that, it's not going to prevent you from moving on to the next stack. Cool. In addition to passing the belt exam, so if you do have a belt exam code out there and you haven't turned it in, that's okay. You have until 9 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, PDT. So make sure you turn that in tomorrow by 9 a.m. And on top of that, you need all core assignments completed. That does mean any resubmits. Now, I did send out an email to every person today. Sorry for the delay yesterday, 2 days. Yeah, yesterday was just crazy. But I did send out an email today letting you know either that you are good to go, means that you've got at least 9 passing, because remember, you have to have 90% of the 10 assignments. If you have at least 9 passing, you're all good to go. Or you have some outstanding resubmits. So please make sure if you have to do a resubmit, there's 2 big things about that. Number 1 is it must be done by 9 a.m. PDT tomorrow. If you don't, then it's going to require a retake, even if you've done all 10 assignments, but you have 3 outstanding, resubmits, it is going to require a retake. Please, please, please don't make me do that. I don't want to do that. That would be the worst. I don't get any joy in that. So please, at least, submit those by tomorrow. And then you have to have your belt exam passed, and then you guys are here. So attendance, you are good to go. So if I did send you an email that you're good to go, then great, you're prepared, you're ready, still do project 4. If you do have any resubmits, please check your student feedback document. I've sent you that a couple times. Please check that, see if there's any outstanding resubmits. And really importantly, when you turn those in, email me and let me know. I do not get a notification if you resubmit them, but you don't let me know. I don't get that notification. So if I don't receive an email, I am going to assume that you did not resubmit it. And so if at 9 a.m. I haven't received an email, then I'm going to just assume that you didn't resubmit it. And then we're going to have to do a retake. So once you resubmit, just make sure you send me your email and you will be good to go there. Any questions on that? Cool. Just a couple of things before next steps. First off, you did it. Again, be really proud of yourselves. I promise you, this was the hardest part. Now, not necessarily the material, but getting used to getting in a rhythm of doing homework again, especially if you are, if you haven't been in school for a while, really just getting used to a rhythm of things being due and staying on time. From a school perspective is an adjustment to get back to for sure. And so just be really, really proud. Take these moments and how much you've learned. I'd love to, talk about everything that you learned. We do have a little bit of a class today, but take these moments, and when things get hard in the next act, just remember how much you learned, right? How much you've grown. Our best, I always think that, you grow the most you do as a person when you're sort of stretched. And I've always heard it takes sunshine and rain to grow a good crop. So even if it was a rainy little season for you, and it was really hard and maybe you shed some tears, wouldn't be the first time, it won't be the last, but just know that you did it, and great job. Again, all resubmits, exams, and assignments are due tomorrow, 9 a.m. PDT. So please make sure if you have anything outstanding that you resubmit it, and then you email me and let me know that you resubmitted. That is wildly important. Once you've done all that, you're good to go. And if you have resubmitted, I'll send, once I pass it, I'll send you an email and say, yep, you're good to go. Is tomorrow afternoon, you're going to receive an email from your instructor. Your instructor is going to be Josh. So Josh will be sending you an email. He's gearing up, ready to go. He had the month off of instructing. So now he's like super jazzed, super ready. So you guys are going to get full energy, Josh. He's brilliant. He's smart. He's really passionate about this. So you're going to be receiving an email from him tomorrow. That email is going to be very similar to the one that I sent you, just sort of out of the gates. It's going to give you your Zoom link. It's going to give you your Discord channel. You're going to stay in the same channel, but it'll change titles. So you'll now be in DS, Moderate Machine Learning, Josh. But all of the old stuff, if you did anything in our Discord, that'll still be there in case you want to go back and reference it. Also tomorrow, we will unlock your new stack. I would really encourage you. You are going to be, you have assignments due next Friday. So moving forward, you're going to keep this Friday due date. So please do not wait and not do anything. I would encourage you, this would be my encouragement. Treat yourself. Do like, if you've ever seen Parks and Rec, go do like a treat yourself moment, either tomorrow afternoon or Saturday, and just give yourself some time, treat yourself. You've done it for these next 4 weeks. Way to go. You guys have crushed it. And then, keep moving forward and start learning your material. The reason that there is a asterisk by this Friday is sometimes our platform, does batch processing. I wish I knew that it was every time, or, not just some of the time. It's either all the time or, none of the time. Sometimes it does batch processing. So if you don't see your new stack unlocked tomorrow, give it until Saturday morning. Give yourself the night off for sure, but give it till Saturday morning. If by Saturday morning you don't have your new stack unlocked, send myself and Josh an email. I'm addicted to my email, so it'll go to my phone and I can go and unlock that for you. So if it's not by Saturday morning, if it is not available, and if it is not, if you don't see Moderate Machine Learning, given that you've passed and you've done everything, you'll know if you've done everything or not. Please let one of us know, and or just CC both of us, and then we will make sure that that is unlocked for you. That way you have access to it. And the last thing, as always, Coding Dojo, it's the bane of our existence. I fully get it. But I ask, there is a survey link here. I'll put this in the chat. End of stack survey. Let me put this in the chat for you. If you guys could do this, this is a really important survey for me as an instructor. It lets us know things I'm doing well, things I can improve on. Numbers are important for sure, but just your comments, I do go and read every single one. So if there's things that I can improve on for the next student, or things that I can improve on to help, please let me know. And I'd love for you guys to fill that out. And that's in the chat right now. So feel free to fill that out whenever you can. Okay. So today, by the end of this, we want to know the end-of-stack expectation, which we just went over, and I'm going to give a couple minutes to ask, for anybody to ask any questions, and then we are going to talk about some advanced explanatory topics. In particular, we were just talking in office hour that Project 1 Part 4 seems a little bit not necessarily counterproductive, but it seems something like that you guys already did in week 3, and so what I would encourage you is take the knowledge we have now. If you only did like one histogram, one box plot, and one correlation map, like create some multivariates, try to start understanding what's going on, and do at least 2 explanatory topics. My encouragement for the project as well is don't just create the visualization, actually explain, why did you use these columns? And then what are you seeing, right? Is there a correlation? Is there not? What's going on? Cool. Before I get and jump into some code, we're going to look at a little bit more advanced sort of topic for visualizations. Are there any questions you have about end of stack expectation, tomorrow, what's going on next? Any questions there? You guys put a 1 in the chat if you're chilling and you're good to go, and a 0 if you got questions, or just speak up. Okay, cool. Great. Again, just as a reminder, I did send out an email today. If you do have resubmits, just really, because there's quite a few resubmits still pending. If you do have resubmits, please do those, resubmit them on the platform, email me immediately. That way I know that you resubmitted and you are, good to go, and I can go in and grade those. So make sure you email me. If you don't email me, I don't know, I can't see that you resubmitted. So please do that, and I can go in and look. So, okay, great. All right. So today, what we're going to talk about is some advanced visualizations with Python. Now, one thing I want to know, I don't think I have this available for you, so give me just 1 second. Yeah. I will make sure that I'll put this in the chat right now. I'll make sure I put this on our doc after class. So what I want you to know is a couple things here. This is our advanced visualizations with Python. What I typically do is there's a lot that we could have gone over, and you can really get into the weeds of visualizations if you want. There's so much material. And in our office hour earlier, we talked a little bit about, the difference between a data scientist and a data analyst. What I do is I have this collab that's got a lot of material that we're not going to go over today. But the idea behind it is we are going to, I wanted to make sure that you had enough material, like customizing fonts, customizing tick formatting, saving our final visualization to Google Drive, different things that you can do, talking about Seaborn color palettes, that if you do really enjoy doing data visualizations, that there is material there. Now, I will also be, when I connect this to our Google Sheet, I also have a solutions file. So if you are wondering, there's some questions on how to do it, there's going to be a solutions file, but I encourage you, the reason I leave it empty is so that way you can try it, see if you can get it. And if not, there's a solution file available for you. So again, we're not going to talk about any of this stuff because you can go super in the weeds on it, but I wanted to make sure you guys had that material. So if you do this weekend, if you're bored, I'd encourage you to do moderate machine learning. But if you got a little bit of time tonight and you're super bored, there's, to the nth degree of things you can do from a visualization standpoint. Cool. So what we're going to be doing, here's the data sets here. If you wanted the data, they are available here. But particularly here, we're looking at house price insights for Ames, Iowa. So for example, we have a homeowners association from Ames, Iowa has hired us to provide some insights on the prices of the homes in the area. They've provided us with some data on house sales in the region, as well as a list of questions I'd like answered. So what we're just going to do is talk about a little bit more advanced topics and how we would handle this. I've talked about it in office hour a little bit, but we're going to talk more in depth on sort of the OOP way to create visualizations. So what I have here is I'm mounting my drive. We're all good to go. Perfect. Drive already mounted. If you ever get this, here it says drive already mounted here to attempt to forcibly remount, call drive.mount, and then have force remount equals true. That's an okay thing to have here as an argument in this mounting. For now, I won't get that error. And this would be a good thing to add if you know that you're going to continue to add data, right? Whether it is you're going to add another data set to one file, or if you know that you might be adding some information to, some sort of drive, or you're going to, you need to add something. Having this force remount allows you to remount and, sort of refresh, if you will, that drive to get any new data that you're giving. So that is just available for you as well. But we're going to use some imports. We're going to use pandas, NumPy, Seaborn, Matplotlib, py. So I'm going to run those. There's a couple things I want to do here. There's an extra Matplotlib import. And here's what I want to communicate is if we are used to having this guy right here, this Matplotlib pyplot SPLT. What this is doing is every time I say PLT, it is taking this matplotlib.pyplot, right? So it's basically like if I say plt.show, then this is shorthand for matplotlib.pyplot.show, like matplotlib.pyplot.show, right? And so the reason we do this is because I don't want to type this out every single time, right? But just know that within Matplotlib, this is like a sub dictionary, or sorry, a sub library. But there's a ton of different things available that Matplotlib has. And so here, if I just do MPL, that is the entirety of Matplotlib. This is just a piece of the pie. This is just a siloed version of, particularly every time I do PLT, it's following this dot notation. But I do have other things I can do, right? So like if I say MPL, that gives me Matplotlib in its entirety. Now you might ask yourself, well, why would I not want to bring in everything versus siloing it? If I bring in everything, if I bring in just MPL, then every time I want to run .plot, I've got to do this. I say MPL, and I can't leap into the next sort of sub library to where I then have to enter the door of pyplot, and then within pyplot, I now have this plot. I can't just say MPL.plot. Right there is not great. Like I can't just say MPL.plot because .plot is through pyplot. So I have to enter each doorway in order to do that. So just wanted to sort of reiterate that yes, there's other things accessible from Matplotlib. It's not just pyplot. That is just the one we've chosen to use. But if I just bring in MPL, I then have to bring in pyplot, then have to say plot, versus if I just do it this way, I can have PLT, I can just say plt.plot, and then we're good to go. And this would have to have like that. Cool. Any questions on that? Cool. One other thing I sort of wanted to teach you as well is when we're reading documentation, sometimes Google Colab will, there's going to be documentation that is for like the most recent version of Pandas or the most recent version of Seaborn or Matplotlib. But just as you don't know if you guys know, but typically a company is going to be a slow adopter of new technology. That means that Google Colab is not always going to use, and typically will never use, the newest version of something. That is because the new versions might have bugs that haven't been fixed, right? And so what will typically happen is if we're using some sort of like Colab and it's using Pandas, it's going to use the most stable version of Pandas where, most of the bugs, if not all the bugs, have been fixed. And so we know that this is stable. And so it's going to be a slow adopter to the new, to the new material until it is, what we say like is sustained, it is able and not sustained necessarily, but like it is bug free and we know what we're getting with it. We're not going to get any weird errors, like it's tested. So if I wanted to know, and the reason I say that is because if I'm trying to go into documentation and read and learn, I would want to know which version Colab's working with before I even dive in. And, I might be reading documentation on Pandas, let's say 1.8, where after 1.5, something new was introduced. And, Colab might still be using 1.3. And so some of the things that maybe is now available with 1.8, there's not a 1.8, but Anything that's available with like this new version, maybe it's a new method call that you sounded, that might sound really cool. Well, Colab, even if you call that, you might, sort of bang your head against the wall and say, why is this not working? Well, it's because the version that Colab's using is not the version that you're looking at. And so just in case, sort of prevent you from that headache, I did just want to point out that if I call my import, so MPL or PD or SNS, if I do dunder version, which is double underscore, this is dunder. So if you ever hear dunder, it just means double underscore. And I say version and then finish it with a double underscore, it will give me in Colab which version particularly that we are dealing with. And so you can see from here that I'm printing out matplotlib, where I've got matplotlib, pandas, and Seaborn here. This T is giving me a tab over. That's what, if you're wondering, what is this? It's a tab over. Just like how when we say /n, it's a new line. Any questions on that? Okay. So what I want to do is I want to do a distribution of house prices. I want to create a little bit more advanced of a visualization. Instead of just doing a normal distribution, I want to create a little bit more advanced of one. So there's a couple things that we can do. Here I've got all this. I'm here. I'm going to say df equals pd.read CSV. Now I don't remember what my data is, so let's go find it. Let's go to my drive. Data, aims, copy path. Cool. Great, and I just want to see what's going on here. So let's do df.head. Okay. Well, instantly I see that I've got this ID column. I'm actually going to use that instead of here as my index. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm just going to say index call equals 0. Now if I run this, cool. Now my ID is my index. Cool. Here's what I've got, right? Now in this particular version, in this particular type, I know that there's only certain columns I want to use, and that's just because I've already looked at this data. So I'm going to bring this code over. It's not important to what I'm going to teach you, so I'm just going to bring it over here. So here I just want to create a subset of features and not really, for this example, deal with these missing values. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to create this value called calls to use. These are the columns I want to use. And then particularly the ones I want is year sold, month sold, fireplaces, all of these guys right here. Then I can just create a copy of my DF and run this. Now I've got this new data frame that this is what I'm going to deal with. This is what my DF is going to now equal. And it's just going to be specifically these columns versus all of these guys, because lots of stuff here. Cool. Any questions on how I did that and why I did that? Okay. So, cool. Ooh, this is not the one I want. That's okay. We'll deal with it. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a quick null value and data type check. So what I am going to do is I'm just going to print. I've got my print function. I'm going to print null values. I want it to show me the null values, right? And then I want to say df dot is an a is an a dot sum. So I want to print that. And then now I also want a new line. So if I want a new line, I say n. Oops. I say \n. And then there's this other thing that I wanted to tell you about. It's called SEP. And SEP is a built-in function, basically, or it's a parameter, sorry, that I can do in my print. And it's what basically separates my values. Now, if I default this, if I've got multiple lines, it's going to give me a space, but I can actually create a new separation So I'm going to say sep, and then I want it to be a new line. So I'm going to say n. If I run this, cool. Let me get that for you. Devin, it should be available for you. Let me check, make sure the share should be good to go. Yeah, you should be able to view this. Please let me know, Devin, if this doesn't work. Okay. So here I'm just doing a quick null value check. I knew that this is good, but we are good to go. Perfect. Great. So now, this is, sorry, friends, and it shouldn't say week 3. That's from an old class, but we're going to do this, guys. So don't worry about this statement. Okay, so now I want to show you how to do basically an OOP version of how we're going to make this. Now, we talked about this in one of our office hours, but let's walk through it there. We've talked about figure, right? We've talked about fig size, where I can make the size of my figure or my, my graph or my chart larger, right? And that's important to know because there's two main pieces, especially when we're dealing with our OOP version. There's two main pieces we need to know. That's going to be our fig, and that's going to be our ax. What does that mean? Well, our figure, the way you can think about it is it's this main frame. It is everything, right? Sort of think about it. If you've got an actual image, if you've got an actual picture or, a painting at your home, this might be the entire frame, right? The entire size of the frame. Within that, within my figure lies my, I'm going to change colors actually, lies my ax. And I'm just keeping them separate just so that you understand sort of the difference. Sort of looks like an image, but this is where my actual visualization is going, right? Is on my ax. My ax is what I actually am painting. That's what I'm actually putting my visualization on. So anytime I'm dealing with OOP, the OOP version, I can deal with this fig and ax, and I can target specifically in this ax. What this does is allows me to not only say, okay, I've got a figure of a certain size, but sorry, that was a terrible square there. But also within that, I've got multiple rows and I've got multiple columns. Right? And so here I've got 2 rows and 2 columns. So now I can have 4 visualizations on this or within this figure. Right? And then I can target each one and say, I want this one to be a bar. I want this one to be a scatter plot. I want this one to be histogram, this to be a box plot, right? And I can target each specific one based off their spacing and based off where they're at. And I can make it brand new. So I can just make, 4 individual graphs all within my fig. And maybe I want them all consolidated together because that makes more sense. Like which column has the most correlation with, X. And so I have X on all of these, and then maybe there's a bunch of different ones and I see a correlation here and I see a correlation here, right? And then this one's all scattered. And so I could say, oh, based off of this, this guy and this guy have a negative correlation and a positive correlation. And these other ones are just scattered, don't really make a whole lot of sense or don't have any sort of correlation. So the way I do this though, is a little bit different. It's not as easy as me just saying, plot or PLT or my, using pandas.plot kind of bar. I've got to do a little bit of setup here. The setup I'm going to do is I'm going to say fig and ax. This is me declaring 2 variables. Variable 1 is this fig. Variable 2 is this ax. In Python, you are able to declare multiple variables just by using this comma. And I'm going to say this is equal to. Now, again, remember, everything is built on matplotlib. So I'm going to say plt.subplots. And when I run .subplots, there's a couple things I can do. Remember that I said, if I wanted to have multiple graphs, if I wanted to have multiple rows or multiple columns, I can do in rows, which just represents however many rows I want. And I can do in columns. Now for this example, I'm not going to do, I'm just going to do 1 because it's going to be a little bit more advanced. But if I did want to have multiple, I could do that. I could just put 2, or I could put, 2 columns, 2 rows. So if I did want to do that, I am able to do that. There's other spots as well, other things. So what we're going to do here is we also have this fig keyword. And within that, I've got my fig size. So what I can do is is within my subplots, I can say fig size equals. And then what it takes is a tuple of size. So I'm going to say 10.5, right? And so this is declaring the figure size. How large is my entire figure in itself? Cool. So here I've got this. Cool. We're good to go. I've created my fig and my ax. So now what I want to do is I'm going to say sns.histplot. And there's a couple things, and I'm dealing with the OOP version. There's a couple things I got to do, especially when I'm dealing with a fig and ax, is I'm going to declare my data equals df. My x in this case is going to be sale price. So I want to see the distribution of sale prices. And then now here where it says ax, if I had multiple rows, I could do this here, right? But, you know, I could say ax of 0 or ax of 1 in target in the same way that like a list has a 0 and indexing. I could do that. But in this case, I'm just having 1. So I can do it this way. I need to have my equal sign here. So now I've got my hist plot. My data is my df. My x is my sale price. And then my ax is where this hist plot is going to be located. So let's just see if this even pulls up and what it's doing. Nope. Has no attribute hist plot. Yes, it absolutely does.
You're missing a T in his plot.
Oh, thank you. 21st century, it's not his plot. Dang it. Okay, there we go. Thank you so much. I was like, man, I'm so confused. Okay, so I've got my his plot. Great. Doesn't look really any different than what we've already done. So let's change that. Now, when I'm dealing with Seaborn and when I'm dealing with, particularly dealing with this OOP version, this ax is what I am changing, right? It's what is holding all of my information. So let's say I wanted to add a title. Now I just say ax.set. And this allows me to set a title. I can set a couple things, but in this case, I'm going to say title. And then let's just say distribution of home prices in Ames, Iowa. Distribution of Ames prices in Ames, Iowa. Cool. So let's see what that looks like. Cool. So now I've got my title. Prices would probably want to be. Cool. Good to go. Again, no big deal. But now let's say I wanted to show the mean and the median price within this. Well, I have the ability to do that. So a couple of things is first I have to calculate my mean. So I'm going to say mean price is going to be equal to, in this case, is my DF of sale price dot mean. Perfect. And so now I've calculated my mean price, but now I want a line to show me exactly where that is. So with that, I have another method that I can use, and this is ax dot. And this ax dot, you can see there's tons of things that I can do, right? I can do so many different things. Visualizations are really, really robust, but particularly I want this ax dot v line. This can be a vertical line. You can see that there's also a horizontal line if I'm dealing like horizontally. But in this case, I want my v line. And within my v line, there's a couple things I have to do. Well, what is the X? Where is this? You know, what am I doing with this? In this case, I want my V line to be my mean, right? I want it to show and visually show where my mean is. So I can say mean price. Perfect. Then I can change a couple. Let's just see what this does at the beginning. Let's see if it creates one. Cool. So it does. It's right here. This guy, but we can see that it's the same color, the blue. So let's go ahead and change that. My V line does have an attribute of color that I can change. I can put black or I can just put K. They both do the same thing. So if I now run this, you see, I now have this black line here. And similar to what we've already discovered is I can do other things too. I can do LS. That is for the line style. I'm going to do a dash. So if I do this, now you see this dashed line here. Perfect. What I can also do is, you know, we've seen that we want it to where our user can quickly understand what's going on. And now I have this dashed line right? And I know that it's the mean, but my user just sees a dashed line. They have no idea. So let's go ahead and create a label for that. And this label is going to equal, label is going to equal. Now, because I am dealing with a string, I can use string interpolation. So I'm going to use an F string. This F string is going to say mean price. And I can say this is equal to, I can just say mean price. That variable. We're going to clean this up, but let's just do this for right now. Perfect. Oh, no, I gotta. If I want it to now show, I say ax.legend. And it'll show my mean price. Now, this is pretty ugly, right? I don't love how great this looks. This is a really, really large number. So I can also just say something like this. We're going to say round my mean price. And then I want it 2 places. So now if I run this, cool. I've got this 2 because it was a 0. So now I've got it this way, right? My mean price is 180,921. Cool. Now I have a much better understanding. Let's do the same thing for my median. So I'm going to do med price is going to be equal to df of sale price. Dot median. Perfect. Again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to copy and paste for the sake of time. But here, I'm going to say med price. I want my color to be, let's say R for red. And if I say median price, if I change all this, let's see what happens. Cool. So now I see that my median price is here. And so now we're starting to even just create a much easier and a little bit more advanced distribution and a little bit more advanced visualization. Any questions on what we've done here? Somebody asked if this is considered, yes, this would be a univariate because I'm just dealing with sale price. Somebody asked, what is ax equals ax? If I have multiple, because I have ax, right? And I'm using ax, remember that when I declared subplots, I could have said in rows or in columns. If I did do that, if I said in rows or in columns, and I said maybe 2, this would then allow me to target which ax I want this to be on. Do I want it on the top left? Do I want it on the top right? If I've said, like, let's say that I am here, let's say that I had, this is my ax, right? And I have 2 rows and 2 columns. I can do this, right? I can have 4 visualizations on one ax. This ax equals ax allows me to say, I want it to be specifically this one, or I want it to be specifically this one. This is where my his plot is going to be. The way you do that is in the same sort of indexing. So I would say like ax of 0, right? To go there, or ax of 1 to go there. And so I can deal with that. That's what this ax is doing. But because we just have 1, just because we, by default, in rows equals 1. If I just say ax is ax, that's where I want it. I just want it on my 1 ax there. Quick questions. Okay. So let's take this. Yeah, of course. So let's take this and then let's actually make this a little bit better. And we're going to use what we call a string format specifier, to where instead of doing this round piece, right? Because we even see here that it automatically rounded and took off the 0. And it's just sort of kind of a lot going on. Python has a built-in string formatter that allows me to do something like this. instead of doing that round piece where I have to round it, if I just say dot to F, that then allows me to, that's a string formatter and saying this string, I want it to be to 2 different places, just to 2 decimal points. And so by doing that, let me get, instead of making us all write this out again, I'm just going to paste it and then we'll go here. I still got my subplots. Everything's still the same, but now instead of me doing round, I can do this. I can say mean price. Well, just to begin, we'll do this first. If I say mean price, and then I do this colon, I say dot to F. Now, if I look at this and run it, we see it actually gets us our 2 spots, right? We've declared this is just different colors. So this is sky blue, slate gray, and these are 2 different styles. And this is line width. So it's a little bit thicker. So that's why they look a little bit different. But particularly what we care about is this guy right here, right? Instead of me having to do round, I do dot to F and it will automatically do that many decimal points, even if there is a 0, right? It'll assure that there are that. What's also neat is if I'm dealing with larger numbers like this, if I just put a comma in front as well, put a comma, I just won't put it in that one. If I put a comma, we can see what it does. It will automatically go and put a comma in front of my numbers, or to sort of separate the thousands. So now 163,000 is much easier to read than 18921, right? And so just by using the string formatter, I can format these strings to make them look much, much nicer without having to go in and do any sort of like string manipulation. I can just use a string formatter and it allows me to do all of those things with just this little piece of code. And technically this guy too. This colon is what starts your string formatter. And then it's a float. So I've got 2 positions and I add in my comma for my thousands, or my every 3rd place. But everything else is the same roughly. This is slate gray and sky blue, same styles. And then I can, again, change the width if I wanted to LW3. That way it's a little bit thicker. Any questions on the string formatter? There's some references here as well. So if you are interested in more string formatting, there's tons of string formatting you can do, but there is some references there. Devin, did it end up working for you? Are you able to access this?
No, but I'm just gonna try to download it after class.
Is anybody else having an issue downloading this?
Oh, really? I'm following through as I refresh it, and the code's being updated for me, at least for the second week.
Okay, so this one is, some people are able to actually see this. Devin, you won't be able to change it. You do have to make a copy, but
No, in the spreadsheet that you sent us, there's not even a link for me to click.
oh yeah,
Tuesday.
no, it's in the chat. Sorry, it's in the chat. I haven't put it on the sheet yet. It's just in the chat. And then after class, I said I would put it on the sheet.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Do you see it in the chat there?
Got it.
Perfect. Great. Okay, let me know. Okay, so we've done this, right? We've created a more advanced visualization. Now, what might be a good idea is I want to functionize this. Sorry, if I've got multiple numeric values that I want to do the same thing over and over and over and over again, then what I can do is I can actually create a function that will do this exact same thing, that will then allow me to actually pass in a column, and then it will create that distribution for me. So let's go ahead and do that. So in this case, I want to create my function. So I'm going to say def. I'm going to call this plot dist because I want to plot the distribution. And this will be a good, especially good way when you're doing exploratory analysis, where this plot dist is going to take in a couple things. It's going to take in data. I'm going to call this call for column. And it's also going to take in a fig size. Fig size. Now, I want to have a default fig size. So if they want to pass in one, then it can take fig size, but I'm going to do a default one of 10.5. So if they don't pass in a fig size, that's okay. Cool. Great. So I've now declared that I am creating a function. So now let's take this code up here and let's make it ready for a function. Cool. So let's go that way. Perfect. So I've got my fig and my axe, but now fig size is no longer 10.5 because if they do want to pass in, the, a new fig size, I always want them to be able to pass that in. So I need to say fig size equals fig size, right? So if they do pass in something, then it'll change it to that. And if they don't, then what it will do is it'll default to 10.5. Great. Okay. So now here I've got my SNS of hist plot where my data equals DF, but I need to change that, right? To where I want them to be able to pass in the data. So this will work on different sets of data, right? Doesn't matter the data set, you can just pass it in and then this function in theory will work. My X, right, is actually going to be what? Does anybody know? What's my X going to be replaced with? Exactly, Ashley. It's going to be call. Because remember I said, I want them to pass in the column that I want to deal with. In this place, I called it call. Could have called this unicorn if I wanted, but X is going to be call. So when they call this function, they have to pass in the data and they have to pass in particularly the column that they want to do. Cool. From a title perspective, this is probably not necessary for a function. I could just say, I could also say like title. I could make them pass in a title. What is that? So it doesn't like that this was passing a default argument. So let's go ahead and put it here. Because this is required and because it was after this default argument, it didn't like that. So anything that's not or that is required that they have to pass in goes first. And if you have default arguments, that goes after. Okay, cool. So then I can just say title here. Oops. Title. Okay, cool. So if I'm wanting to see my mean and my median, what would I do here? How can I change this to be equal and functionalized, basically? Anybody know? What would I have to change in just this code right here?
Change the column to call.
This guy right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right? I change this to call. Now, whatever column they do, it's going to take in this mean. And then this all stays the same because this is just coming from this mean price. I have to do the same thing for my median. And then after that, everything should be good to go. So if I run this, nothing's going to happen. I haven't called my function. So let's actually test it out. Let's say def of plot dist. I know I have to pass in my data. I know that I have to pass in, or not data, sorry, data or DF, right? Because that's the data that I'm using. I have to pass in my X. Now let's do this. What did we call that? Sale price. Let's.
Are you redefining this? You put def. Shouldn't you just call it?
I'm sorry.
Are you redefining this? You put def again.
Oh yeah, good call. Thank you. I'm not supposed to. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm now, thank you, Ashley. Plotting my, I'm calling my function. I'm passing in my data. I'm passing in this, and then I have a title that I want to put. And these do have to be strings. So let's put this guy. And my fig size is good. So now if I do this, it creates the same thing. And what's nice about this is I can now take the, I can look at another column So like, let's say df.info and see what we have. Okay, so it was like year built. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's say plot dist. I pass in my data. I'm gonna say year built. And then I'm gonna just say distribution of homes and the year they were built. See if this works. Cool. So now I see, well, this is interesting, right? And so this is a way that I can look and say, is this actually functional for this particular one? In this case, I don't have median price and mean price. So that actually doesn't work here, right? If I just said median, so something like that, and mean. Oh, wait, that. Get rid of this. Then this would work, but now it doesn't work for my sales one. So now it just says mean, median, has all that issue. So this is just an example of maybe like we have this mean year. But maybe for this particular function, I would have to figure out a way where year built could work. Maybe a format where that makes sense. I could build in some sort of string formatter, or maybe some sort of check to see, if it says year, if the call has year in it. Maybe I do like if string dot contains, I could say something like if call dot contains year, then I do something different. And this would just say, if this string contains the word or the letters of year, then maybe I want this pricing or this version or this format to be something different. Does that make sense? Let's go ahead and go back.
I have a question.
Yes.
So when you define your mean price and median price variables,
Mhm.
I know that you replace the column names with like the column variable like call, but then why is it okay to still keep the df as df rather than data? Because what if your data is a data frame like that's called something else? Wouldn't
I was
that not
about to
work?
ask that same question. I put it in text as well. So I had the same question.
Oh, you're right. It should have been data. That's a good catch. In this case, I passed in df, but I don't even know why that would still work. Yes, no, that should have been data. Yet it still gave us the median and the mean. Anybody have any thoughts on why that would happen?
Because your data was titled DF and that DF was already there.
No, because, oh, here's why. Here's why. If whenever I passed in df here, this naming convention goes away, right? And it becomes data. So my particular df that I'm dealing with is now data. So yes, this should have been data here, and this should have been data here. The reason this worked is because in this same Colab, I've already defined df. And so this was taking the df of call, but I've already defined df as the particular data frame I'm working with right now. And so it knows what df means. If I wouldn't have, let me clear this. If I wouldn't have done this guy, if I wouldn't have done this and I just called that function, it's going to say, I don't know what df means. I would have gotten an error. But simply because I already have declared, and in the memory of this instance, there was something called df, it was able to call that same data. But if I was trying to use maybe for a different data set, it wouldn't have worked. That's why it worked in this case. I was like very confused. But yes, you're exactly right. Thank you. I think it was Hadassah. Yeah, that should have been data.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Good catch. Great catch. Anybody else have any questions? Cool. Well, it is 5:58. Just wanted to remind you that there is custom tick formatting. There's a whole bunch of cells here, a whole bunch of sort of links to any sort of documentation if you wanted there. Again, still using the string formatter from if you're wanting to deal with that. There's a lot of this stuff broken down. I will attach a solutions file as well. There's some cool things that you can do with function formatter where you can convert this to where if it is like in the dollars, I can just say 700K versus having it as 700,000. That's all broken down here for you. So you guys do have access to all of this material, but we are at time now. So are there any final questions for sort of what we talked about today? End of stack expectations, anything you guys have? I am going to put, if you guys weren't here, oops, if you guys weren't here sort of at the beginning of this, there is, surprise, surprise, an end of stack survey that does really help us if you fill that out. I put that in the chat right there. If you guys could, that'd be amazing. I just want to say thank you for being part of my students. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having patience when my brain doesn't compute some things. I hope that you learned some stuff. I hope that you have stretched yourself and you feel like you are on a good foundation. It's still going to feel rocky at the beginning because you're still learning stuff. But I promise, especially after about like weeks 8 and 9 is when it really kicks into gear. So again, just want to say thank you so much. You guys have been incredible students. Please make sure you're checking your feedback document. Please make sure everything's updated. So if you have a resubmit on your feedback document, then please, please, please do that by 9 a.m. I want to see you guys succeed, and my hands are tied. If anything past 9 a.m., my hands are tied. I can't even make a decision on that. It's very, very firm. So please make sure you do all those resubmits. Email them, email it, and let me know because I won't know if you've resubmitted. So please, please do that. Thank you for your kind words in the chat. It's been my pleasure to be your instructor. Really grateful for you guys, and I wish you the best in your career. If you guys ever need anything, or if you ever want to connect, find me on LinkedIn. Happy to do that. Happy to answer and help with any questions you guys have. I hope you have a wonderful night and good luck, good luck, good luck. Please never feel weird to reach out to me in any sort of way. And that is it, friends.